Well, welcome to another edition of What's So Funny, the show that probes the brains, the minds, the psyches, and the brains of the people who make the funny. Tonight's guest is a stand-up, actor, and a stand-up goaltender. Critics have called his Brent Leroy as this generation's King of Kensington. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Brent Butt, and now a man critics are calling this generation's Brian Linehan, your host and MC, Mr. Guy McPherson.
Thank you, Kevin Smith. Thank you, and happy birthday, Kevin.
Thanks.
Is it your birthday, Kevin?
Yes, it is. What am I doing
Stop
here?
playing the guitar for a minute and talk to us.
I can't. I have to finish the song. There you go.
Kevin, this is your birthday present. You've asked me for years if you could meet Brent Butt.
Oh,
He's
thanks.
here. Happy birthday.
Wow.
Yes, our guest is. Are they actually saying he's the new King of Kensington? Because that's not
That's
right.
what critics are saying.
Because Corner Gas is funny. I never was a big fan of King of Kensington.
King of
Although
Kensington gets a bad rap, but I think it holds up. There was some good gags, solid joke writing on King of Kensington.
Really? I guess I never gave it that much of a chance.
People have a tendency to, especially here in Canada, we crap on things that are Canadian usually.
Yeah.
But King of Kensington really, they were playing it for a while on the Comedy Network, and I was watching some of it, because I used to watch it as a kid.
Right.
Because, we only had 2 channels.
And you didn't know it was Canadian.
Oh, I was well aware. Because I was keen, even as a kid, to get into Canadian show business.
Yeah.
And so I started watching it, when they were playing it on the Comedy Network, and it holds up. Some good gags.
Yeah. You're right. People do crap on Canadian TV shows and whatever, but we also are really proud. We want to support something.
Yes. I think there's a palpable feeling that we're kind of coming of age somehow. How we're starting to embrace Canadian things more than we used to. We used to crap on things more than we do now. Now we're kind of like, hey, that's Canadian, that's cool. Whereas before, it was kind of an automatic, we would shut it off if it was Canadian.
Yeah, but it also wasn't very good most of the time, right? I mean, they weren't shutting off great things just because they were Canadian, were they?
No, that's true. No, there's some validity to that. There was a fair amount of crap.
Yeah, now when you started out on Corner Gas, 3 seasons ago, I believe, you're in your 3rd season. So.
Yeah, the 3rd season's on the air. We've finished shooting 3 seasons.
Okay, so the 3rd season's on the air. Now, go back 3 years, there must have been some skepticism. I know you told me about this idea, 4 or 5 years ago. You've had it for quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I originally came up with the idea as I was going to write a feature film. The story could really take place anywhere in this feature film. And so I thought, well, why not make it a small Saskatchewan town? Because that's, you never see it, right?
Yes.
So if the story could take place anywhere, I'll try it there. So I started writing this film, but the story wasn't good enough to be a film. It kind of went nowhere. It was kind of crappy. But what I found in the writing was that I liked the characters and I liked the scenario, the setting, and the jokes came fast and easy.
As they do to you.
It was all conversational.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe not a movie. Let's try and make it something smaller, like a sitcom. So I started thinking about my life. If I had not pursued stand-up, I probably would be back in my hometown pumping gas.
Probably, really?
Yeah, as good a chance as anything else.
Right. And so now it's kind of like a Seinfeld meets Northern Exposure. Huh? Have you heard that one?
What?
I have heard that. That's what people are saying.
Really? Now,
Both those shows did some business, so that's good.
They did. How
I'll
did
take
you
it.
sell it to the networks? Is it something meets something when you went in there and told them about it?
No, it really wasn't. It was, I didn't make the initial pitch. A director friend of mine, David Story, he was a director who I'd worked with on another show. I had told him about it over coffee, and he basically kind of pitched the network. He said, Brent's got this idea. The network was interested. Brent Haynes from the Comedy Network was interested in doing a show with me and David Story and Mark Farrell. That was kind of what he hoped to do someday. And David Story said, well, Brent's got this idea for a show, and kind of gave him the rough pitch. Based on the rough pitch, they liked the idea. So then we had a meeting on it, about it. And they liked the idea good enough to say, well, we'll go into development to write a couple of scripts. Mark Farrell came on board. He's one of the top showrunners in the country and just happens to be an old buddy of mine, old stand-up that I met, 13 years previous in Red Deer, Alberta on a gig. And so it kind of worked out well because this guy who was a really good scriptwriter and showrunner knew my comedy. I didn't have to kind of educate somebody on who I was and what I was about. He just knew. And so we wrote the first 2 scripts, and based on those scripts, we went into development. They bought 13 episodes.
Now explain to our ignorant listeners what a showrunner is, and also to me, because I don't know.
Showrunners, like they also call him a supervising producer. It's kind of a guy who takes care of all the nuts and bolts, and really, in a lot of ways, it's the guy who makes sure the scripts get done and make sure the scripts make sense, and really does the heavy lifting in a lot of ways on the scripts. And so Mark and I, from the get-go, we just started really developing the characters and how they would be and how the scripts would come about. And I explained what it is that I wanted, and I had written a rough draft of a first script, and he, being a much more experienced scriptwriter than I, said, well, it's 207 pages, man. It's 22 minutes. What are you doing? So he kind of showed me how to make a sitcom script.
And now you're an expert. You're the head writer, aren't you?
No, we don't really have a head writer. Paul Mather is our supervising producer. He's one of 2. Mark Farrell's still a supervising producer, but he doesn't come out. He's not on the ground in Saskatchewan with us anymore. He's got a lot of duties out in Halifax. So Paul Mather, who Mark had hired in the season 1 to be a writer, has stepped up to be supervising producer. He oversees all the. But I write on every script.
And your writing has refined itself, so that now you could put together a tight 22-minute script on your own?
I don't know if my writing has gotten, but my typing has gotten a lot better.
That's good.
I can type like the wind.
Are you a 2-fingered guy?
You know how the wind can type? Yeah, it's like me.
Yeah. No, but when you told me about this idea before it aired, I was somewhat skeptical. It is Canadian TV, right?
It sounds like a lousy idea, really.
I don't know.
Well, it sounds like a nothing idea. That's the idea. Like, when you tell it to somebody, these people hang out in a gas station and a coffee shop and shoot the breeze. You go, well, wow.
Well, that's what it's always
Sign
in the
me up.
writing. I mean, I went to one of these pitch things that they have at the Just for Laughs.
You're losing me with your high-tech terminology.
Showbiz
Dumb it down a
jargon.
shade.
Yeah. And so everybody gets 5 minutes, I think, to give their big pitch idea for a sitcom, for a movie, whatever it is, to these network executives. And they had guys there from the Comedy Network and CTV. Everybody who came up, they shot down. And I was thinking, that's not a bad idea. And they just shot it down. Then I was thinking, well, Corner Gas, just the idea itself, if that was pitched by Joe Blow, off the street, they might have gone, no thanks. But
probably.
It was attached to you, who was one of the top stand-ups in the country, as well as these other guys that you mentioned, right? So that helps.
Yeah, it absolutely helps. I mean, if you can have one of the reasons they were interested in talking to me to begin with is the fact that I have a track record of making people laugh, in clubs. It's kind of the way it's always been, like when radio first started and they were going to do radio comedies, they went to vaudeville. They said, okay, who are the acts that are consistently funny in vaudeville? We'll adapt them to radio. When TV came along, they said, okay, who's consistently funny in radio? We'll adapt it to TV. So you just kind of try and, anybody want, if you're going to make a decision, especially a decision that involves millions of dollars developing a TV show, you kind of want
your show costs millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
Wow.
And you want to back that up with some kind of track record. So you want to find somebody who, and the other nice thing about it is that I was loving my life. I didn't have to do Corner Gas. I wasn't coming to them hat in hand saying, come on, we got to do this. Mm-hmm. I was like, they said, hey, we hear you got this idea. They wanted to talk to me about it. So it's a different, I wasn't at the pitch thingy that you were talking about.
Right.
I had to get out of my home and go to, they flew from Toronto to Vancouver to meet with me. So it's kind of a different scenario there.
So what were your expectations going in? I mean, were you just thinking, it might last a year or whatever?
No, I didn't even. I mean, when we first went in, I thought we could maybe sell a couple of scripts. I thought we could maybe sell them on the idea of paying for us to write a couple of scripts, which is not bad.
Why would they want just the scripts without producing?
It often happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you develop. You got X amount of development dollars in your budget. If you're a network or a broadcaster, you got to develop some things. There's you kind of have a mandate, a government-sanctioned mandate that says you have to try and develop X amount of things and try and do some kind of CanCon. So there's a mandate where you have to produce something. But I just, initially my thought was maybe we'll get paid to do a couple of scripts. Not bad. Sit down and type. No heavy lifting.
Right. When did you realize that this was something special?
Just last week, actually.
Wow, 3 years in.
Wow.
I'm slow on the uptake. Kind of, during the process of filming the first season, I really felt that we were making a show that was funny. But that doesn't always translate into anything, right? You can do something that you think is kind of good, and will people watch it, or will it get a market, or, will it just disappear into the ether? You don't know. So, and because all those things are kind of X factors, all I could really anchor myself to was, okay, well, let's do a show that at least I can hold my head up and say, well, I think this is funny. And this is sincerely what, this is the way I would do the joke. And we didn't really, skew the show to any kind of demographic or anything, which was nice. The network never gave us that. They never said, you got to make the show appeal to 18-year-old redheads.
Yeah.
Right? They never said that. They just said make a funny show. So it opened us up to a big, wide demographic. My stand-up, my comedy is not particularly skewed or edgy or...
No, it's not. It appeals to everyone.
So it was I just made a show kind of like that.
Yeah.
Just a show that I think is funny. And if you watch the show, because of that, I think there's comedy kind of for everybody. There's some, subtle wordplay. There's broad slapstick. There's a lot of different kind of styles of comedy throughout the show.
And it has a great look to it as well. I guess that comes with the production, big budget that you have.
Yeah, I mean, for Canadian sitcom, which, kind of doesn't even exist, for Canadian half-hour comedy, we had a good budget, and everybody was on board the notion of shooting on film, which makes it look really good. And then Ken Krawchuk, who's without question, one of the best director of photography cats in the country, happens to live in a cabin on a lake in Saskatchewan. And he would go to Vancouver and shoot a season of a show, or he would go to Toronto and shoot a show or whatever. Just an amazing DP. He lives there. And when we were able to say to him, look, we got this show that shoots, an hour from your house, he was pretty keen. So Ken Krawchuk is a big reason that the show looks so good, and the fact that you just technically we're able to shoot on film.
And also another nice thing is no laugh track. God, I hate that.
You hate that there's no laugh track?
Sorry, let me rephrase. I hate the laugh track. I mean, even
when
you
much
watch
hate in you, guy.
hate. When you watch
Rage.
even the comedy nows with the stand-up comics, you see the audience, but somehow the laughter doesn't match the audience. They must do something there. But it's nice.
Generally, TV shows get sweetened a bit,
Yeah.
But we, our show, a lot of it was going to take place where, you'd have two guys standing on a street with a field of wheat behind them and nobody around for a million miles. Right. And to hear people laughing would be very contrived, and you'd be like, where are the laughs coming from? It just would seem unnatural. We wanted to shoot it like a little half-hour movie every week. And there's been a track record of shows like that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, Malcolm in the Middle, no laugh track, works great, very funny show. And so it wasn't a tough sell. We didn't have to really push it. The network executives that are directly responsible for our show, they felt the same way. They were like, let's not do a laugh track. Let's just make it. So it wasn't a big bad. Everybody was on board.
The show is What's So Funny. Our guest this week is Brent Butt. You know him as Brent Leroy on Corner Gas. Big Canadian star. But did you know, and I'm surprising that a lot of people didn't know what a great stand-up you are. I mean, because now they just see you on TV.
Sure.
Maybe they don't go out to the clubs. And we got a couple tracks of your stand-up here we managed to locate.
Where the deuce did you get that?
Yeah. Let's see what we got lined up. Here's Brent doing about a minute's worth of stand-up.
I hope this is Bill Cosby.
The big city. I'm from a small town originally. I grew up in a small town in Saskatchewan. That's where I'm from. Like there's any other kind of town in Saskatchewan. So that's right. It's one of the small ones, it turns out. In the flat area of the province. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a tractor by the highway, that town. Have you seen it? Oh, it's lovely. So it's always good to be here in the big city. It's different. A lot of differences between small towns and big cities, You hear phrases in a small town you would never hear in the big city. Excuse me, sir, will you hold my baby while I count this cash? That kind of thing. It's a different level of trust, really.
That's Brent Butt doing some stand-up. I don't know where that was recorded. Or
That was recorded at the Opera House in Toronto.
Really?
Yeah.
You do opera as well.
I do. I often dress up as a lady, and I come out at the end.
I see.
Yeah.
But I did mention that I'm surprised at the number of people who don't know that you do stand-up. I guess that's natural. I spoke to you once, and you said that if you ask, 100 people on the street who Derek Edwards is, or
Nipsey
Sean-
Russell.
or Nipsey
The
Russell.
late Nipsey
We're
Russell.
talking about, Canadian stand-ups. The top Canadian stand-ups, 99 would say, I have no idea, right?
Sure.
And yet they're huge stars within the stand-up comedy world.
Yeah. Well, it's like, the top accountant in the country, right? You go, man, this guy is awesome with numbers. Lou Haralmi, he's the best accountant in the world. Really? Within the accounting community, this guy's a legend. But, it's just not that publicly known.
Yeah, and even, I was talking to an editor here in town once and about Corner Gas. She had no idea that you live in Vancouver, that half the cast is from Vancouver and lives here right now.
More than half, yeah.
More than half, yeah. Right? It's
5 of the 8 cast members live in Vancouver.
Yeah, that's amazing. And they had no idea. They just see the show. They see it on CTV, as the announcer says. He also, do you ever notice he says Corner Gas instead of Corner
I was just
Gas?
I was just doing some publicity for our Christmas episode. Highest rated episode ever. by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent. I watched it.
2.2 million people watched.
That's because we plugged it last week.
Yeah, that's why. It's really turned the table on it.
Turn the corner.
The announcer was there at the station. He came out to me. A lot of people have been giving him grief, and he said, "Am I saying it right now?"
I've noticed in the last week or so he has changed it.
Yeah, we get a lot of grief. People were emailing saying, "Why are
Corner
you
Gas."
saying it like that?"
Yeah.
On Corner Gas. What?
Just the but do you surprise people on the street living here?
I do.
In
I jump
Vancouver?
out behind the mailbox. Blah! And they drop their groceries and run.
Or is Vancouver just too cool to ever notice you?
No, we get recognized a lot, and I get a lot of people actually. For there's bound to be a ton of people who don't know that you do stand up, or they don't know what the deal is. But there's a lot of people who say they love the show and that they started watching the show because they saw me at a club somewhere, either at the Urban Well here in town where I used to host the shows all the time, or they would see me do Just for Laughs, doing stand up.
Yeah.
So it was like before Corner Gas came along, I had spent probably a solid 14 years playing every province in the country, just a good solid 14 years on the road. And that makes a difference. Even though you're playing to, 100, 200 people a night, 300 people a night, makes a difference. If you do that, 5 shows a week for 4 shows a week for 14 years, you get a bit of a groundswell of people who will tune in if you're going to do something on TV.
But now, obviously, as we just said, that people are watching who had no idea about your stand-up.
Sure.
Right? So when you're walking down the street in Vancouver, where you live for, 6 months of the year now?
Yeah, I'm here about 6 months of the year now.
Yeah. Are you getting like, hey, there's that guy from Corner
Sometimes you
Gas.
get people say, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
And you say, "Well, I live a block from here." What? And their world crumbles.
Oh.
You're not that guy on TV.
You don't smell like gasoline.
But what's it like in Regina when you're out? You're there for 6 months during the nice part of the year, right? We see it every week. It's
In
gorgeous.
The warm part of the year, yeah.
Yeah.
Hot and dry.
Hot and dry.
As opposed to being cold and dry in the winter.
Now, this is about them. You live in Regina. You film in Rollo, just outside of Regina. Can you get out? Can you go out and have fun on the town if there's any
Sure,
fun to
I
be
mean-
had in Regina?
Sure, people are cool. They're like, "Hey, I love your show," and that kind of thing. But, it's not, it doesn't get in the way of you living your life.
Oh, that's
It's
good.
not, I'm not the Beatles or anything. I'm not,
You are in Canadian show business.
I'm one of the
You are
Beatles.
you're a quarter of the Beatles. But do you still consider yourself stand-up first? Or
yeah, absolutely. I'm a stand-up who is currently making a television show.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm a stand-up. It all comes down to people delivering jokes and jokes being delivered properly, whether they're relayed, visually or audibly. It all comes down to just jokes, right? And that's what stand-ups do. Stand-ups really don't have much else. We don't have a lot of charm or charisma. We're not much to look at, generally speaking. There's a few exceptions, but honest to God, look at us as a group. 2 a.m. when we're staggering out of clubs. So all we really have going for us is the ability to communicate gags, and that's what the TV show is.
you were talking about how now, you have this proven track record of making people laugh over the years, so they could say, yeah, let's take a chance with Brent Butt's show. the corner gas thing. And do you think that Canada is now starting to see that? It's been done in the States for years, where all the top stand-ups eventually get TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really the first, weren't you? I can't think of anyone else. Mike McDonald had Mosquito Lake, for about a week.
But even then, I mean, with Mike, it was frustrating because Mike is a funny guy. Anybody who's ever seen Mike McDonald do stand-up live in a club knows how just absolutely dominating he can be. He's absolutely... he can destroy a room and just be absolutely hilarious. And but he didn't have, at the end of the day, he didn't have a lot of this say. It wasn't his show. He was the face on the show, but he wasn't calling a lot of the shots. Right. And Mike and I would talk. The Mosquito Lake was fundamentally backwards. I told him this. I was, living in Toronto at the time when Mosquito Lake was being done, and Mike was in town. He lives in L.A., but he was in Toronto, staying at the Four Seasons Hotel while they were shooting, and we would play cards almost every night. And he was frustrated because it wasn't working out, and I told him, well, it's fundamentally backwards. You have this guy who's made it. See, his track record of being a funny guy, his strength was being a jerk, being an a-hole, being an angry, upset guy. That's what made him funny. They put him in the situation, Mosquito Lake, where he was the happy-go-lucky guy in the cardigan sweater who wanted to be at the lake, and his family didn't want to be there. So his family, in the scripts, his family was saying the funny things. They were upset. They didn't want to be at the lake, so they were scoring with the jokes. But it was like this, some 10-year-old kid saying the jokes, or the actress who played his wife. She may be a solid actress, but it comes down to the jokes, right? And the funny guy in the show, Mike, was given no jokes. It was fundamentally backwards. They should have made it that the family wanted to be at the lake. He was dragged there against his will. Then he could spend 22 and a half minutes every week grousing about being at the lake, being angry and upset, and the show would have been hilarious. They had some funny writers. But it was just fundamentally, it was on its head.
He didn't get a second chance, though.
No, I told him that about halfway through because he was very frustrated and he was almost in tears. He was like, where were you when we started this? We should have,
Yeah, you should have been writing on that show. What a different career path you'd have. Now. You'd be a sitcom writer. But do you think there's going to be more of this now with our top, everyone says Canada produces great stand-up comics. Are there going to be more of them having their own vehicles, weekly shows on TV?
I hope so. Derek Edwards should have a show. Mike Wilmot should have a show. There's so many hilarious guys. I just left a poker game to come here. Any one of the guys at the poker table, you could do base a sitcom on. Any one of the guys, except for Stacy, who's a bartender. He could play a secondary character on the sitcom. You wouldn't want to anchor a show around Stacy.
No.
I wonder if he's listening right now.
Probably.
They're listening.
But you have a production company, hey?
I have several companies. It's a crazy paper trail. I'm often, at the end of the year when you do your accounting, you're like, who am I, Bill Gates? I got like 9 companies on the go here. I feel shifty, but everything's above board.
Now, your old joke from your stand-up, you say you get a little squirrely when you get a couple grand in the bank. I guess you can't do that joke anymore.
It doesn't. It's weird. It doesn't fly as well anymore. People are like, you got a couple grand in the bank. Who are you trying to kid?
Well, you did that joke for years, and we could all relate because you're just a Canadian show business, and you had more than a couple grand in the bank.
Not really. When I was doing not when I wrote that joke. I didn't have it. No. The odd time I would, once a year I would have a couple grand in the bank. That would be my high water mark, and you would go nuts. You'd have double cheese on everything.
Wow. So how many gigs do you play a year now as a stand-up?
Well, half the year, 6 months, I'm just off the market. I can't, because of Corner Gas takes all my time. We shoot for 4 months, and we got pre-production, post-production for a month on either side of that. So for a month, I can't do anything. And then generally I take another month where I don't do much stand-up because it's Christmas. Mm-hmm. So for 5 months of the year, I can do some gigs. But I'm away from home so much because we shoot the show out of town. I want to be home. So I don't do that much. I'll do maybe 4 or 5 shows a month maybe now. Something like that.
4 or 5 a month, and not just in Vancouver. You're talking about elsewhere.
Yeah, around the country. Yeah.
So now you're at the big theaters, things like that.
Yeah, usually, it's still doing stand up, the same type of thing. It's just the venue has changed a bit. Instead of doing a show for 180 people in a club somewhere, I'm doing it for theater maybe 600-700 people, something like that.
You started the show at the Well, at the Urban Well in Kitsilano. Every Tuesday night, it's still going on.
Yeah. Myself and Jamie Hutchinson, Jamie Hutchinson's a comic from Nova Scotia who moved to Toronto, and then he and I ended up in Vancouver together, and we knew each other, and there weren't a lot of places for comics to fail. You always hear old comics talk about that. There's no place to fail for the kids these days. I never knew what that meant, but coming to Vancouver, there were gigs, but they were gigs you were paid to do these gigs, and you were paid to bring your A game, and there was no place to develop new material, and also no place for younger comics to kind of get their legs. You need somewhere where you're allowed to fail because you're not being paid, and you can do 5 minutes and bomb if you need to, and it doesn't affect anything. And so we started doing the shows at the Urban Well, where Tuesday nights it was kind of like not really an open mic. You had to phone down. You had to be on the list to be on the show. But we gave a lot of people who had never done stand-up before a shot. And so on any given night, it would be a nice mix of top pros and greasy young newcomers.
And they are greasy. And you
Some
were
greasy old pros, too.
You were the constant. You were the host. And so people knew they could go down and see people fail, but they were not going to see you fail. Because have you ever bombed?
Yes.
You have.
Many, many times.
Really?
Many times. Well, not many. Who are we kidding? But,
Once.
No, yeah, I've bombed lots of times.
But you're open.
That's where you get good. You get good by bombing.
How does that work?
You don't learn anything by doing well. It just goes well, and hey, great. And you have some drinks, and you go home at the end of the night. It was all great. You learn by sucking, and you go, well, what caused that to suck? How you start analyzing how could I have changed? What could I have done differently? What was in the environment conspired against me? How could I have changed the crowd's opinion? Or you start analyzing, and really, the glaring lessons are in the middle of a sucky set somewhere where you've bombed. That's where the lessons are. And it just comes down to due diligence, to licking your wounds in your hotel room and thinking, okay, what could I have done differently? That's where you learn how to be good.
Don't you just blame it on the audience?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
You try not to, but sometimes you do.
If you've done the same act and it's killed everywhere, and then you just happen to come across a crowd that isn't paying attention or not getting it, don't you just go, well, it's their fault?
Sometimes you think that.
Or are there still ways to win them over?
Yeah, the reality is usually that there's something you could do. But the problem is that it requires making a modest effort. And it's just so often you don't want to. You don't want to make that modest effort. But
You're a lazy man.
I'm a lazy man by nature, but it's a conundrum. Because I'm lazy, but I'm driven.
Oh.
I'm an ambitious, lazy dude. I want to have like the best hammock there is. But comedy's such a subtle thing. There are always, when it doesn't work, it's generally there's some tiny little minuscule reason for it not to work. And so instead of blaming the crowd, the kind of the smart thing to do is to say, okay, what little thing what turned it against me, and what could I have done differently? What tiny little change could I have made,
So it's not necessarily, I got to rewrite this joke. If it has worked in the past,
Yeah.
It's how can I win over this crowd? What can I do?
What was the environment? What was my attitude?
Right.
Could I have done a different joke earlier to set things up? Could I have explained who I was as a character earlier on better so that this joke would have a better foundation? Things like that.
So you're playing the big theaters now. You're not bombing, obviously. People are coming out to see Brent Butt, right? Big TV star. How do you gauge whether you've actually done well when everybody is predisposed to really liking you anyway?
You just, 10 minutes in, because they'll give you about 5. They'll give you 5 or 10 minutes based on, hey, we know that guy from TV. But after that, you got to have it after that. I mean, I've seen it many, many times. And Seinfeld talked about it on his show. They'll give you, for that first 10 minutes, hey, it's the guy from the show that we like. We love it. And then after 10 minutes, it's like, okay, where's the jokes? You got to bring it now. And they'll turn on it if you don't have it.
But how can you stay sharp, right? I mean, if you're not performing, if you're only doing 4 or 5 gigs, in a month, you said, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's about what you were doing at the Well, but of course you were off away on weekends.
Yeah, I mean, the Well was just
elsewhere.
my Tuesday night gig, but I made my money on the road out of town,
Yeah. So, but can you stay as sharp?
It's tough. It's good that, like, I wouldn't want to have this job that takes me out of the stand-up loop 2 years into my career. Like, luckily I have a base of a good 14, 15 years of stand-up, so that when I am rusty, at least I have the history to go back on. I've done it enough times now that I can blow the rust off a little sooner than you would otherwise. But it's a tricky thing. You get unsharp. It's like I always equate it to boxing. They talk about ring rust. If a boxer hasn't fought in a while, you still know everything you're supposed to do. When the guy feints with his right shoulder, you should probably pull back to your right, but you generally get busted in the yap before it happens.
Yeah.
And it takes a fight or two to get back into it, to get instinctually start bobbing and ducking and weaving and counterpunching. And it's the same with stand-up. Intellectually what you're supposed to do, but sometimes there's just that millisecond of timing that's off that, you gotta get back in the game.
So you're not at the well. I saw you there about a month ago or so.
I'll drop in now, but I'm not hosting. Sean Proudlove hosts it.
Different people host it now.
I kind of handed the reins off to Sean Proudlove. Then he started mixing it up, handing it off to other people, and so on any given night, I don't know who's hosting anymore, but it's generally a good lineup of local talent. There's a lot of funny guys in Vancouver, a lot of funny comics.
But is it that you're on your break, right? You just want to be home and relax after, a tough 6 months that you just go, I don't want to go down there every week.
I'm 67 years old now, guy, so I've put in my time. Yeah, it's just, I like being at home, and but I still go down to the well. In the off season when we're not shooting Corner Gas, I'll go down. It's just I'm not there every week. But
are you going to be there anytime soon? The listeners can go down and see you.
There's nothing on the books, but it is a drop down thing. It's like if Tuesday night is around, I have the itch to do stand up, and I got nothing else on the go. I'll drop down, and they'll let me go on.
Let's listen.
I start busting heads.
Yeah. Oh, they'll let you on, I'm sure. Let's listen to some more Brent Butt stand-up. He's our guest. The show's What's So Funny? This is CFRO 102.7 FM.
I almost wore a tie tonight. I was very close to wearing a tie. I was in front of the mirror making the big decision. But I don't look good in a tie. I think it's because I have a really big, round head, And if you have a big, round balloon melon, you just shouldn't be wearing a tie. It creates some kind of illusion, because people always come up to me and go, whoa, buddy, that is way too tight. It's just the way it is. Like they think it's just going to blow up on them. Geez, look out! It's too big, my head. My head is 27 inches around. Huh? That's too big, isn't it? For a human head, 27? What's going on? In fact, your head's too big if you've ever felt the need to measure it, I think, really, huh?
And we're back with our guest, Brent Butt, star of Corner Gas. I was in the CTV store on Burrard yesterday. There's lots of Corner Gas goodies you can buy. There's the mugs and the baseball caps and the shirts and Dog River stuff. You got it all going on, Brent Butt.
I do. I got it all going on. That's a whole other company. Bruiser is
that one
Ontario
of your
company. No.
No?
I have, sadly, I don't have anything to do with the Bruiser people.
Oh.
But yeah, they put all the cool merch together. I think I see for every $1,000, I see an eighth of a penny or something like that down the road. It'll come to me when I'm 80 years old.
And is it flying off the shelves?
It is. It's moving. It's a hot mover.
Yeah.
The Christmas season. People are buying, the blue bowling shirt that I wear at the gas station, my gas station shirt.
Yeah.
It's weird to me now. I'll be like going about my day and I'll see somebody wearing that shirt. It's weird to me. It's very surreal.
Yeah.
Flattering, but it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Well, it's got Style Umford.
Exactly. It's got Style Umford.
Yes, the king of the portmanteau.
I'm bad at mashing words together. That's my thing. I love to do it.
Do you know that's called a portmanteau?
No. I think that's the bridge I crossed to get here.
That's the putting together of two different words, and it's several episodes you have done that.
It's a hook that I have. The writers are sick of it. I keep throwing it in.
No, trust me, this is gold. What were some others you did?
Oh, I can't remember, but they always come. I always mash two words together in my life. I do that all the time.
Yeah. Well, a lot of this the series
99 times out of 100 just unfunny
is from your life. I mean, both you and your character Brent, same name. Right?
Yeah, we're the exact same people.
You both have big heads.
We're the exact same. We wear the same. We wear brown leather Gravis shoes. We wear the exact. The biggest difference between Brent Butt and Brent Leroy is that Brent Butt has a square-faced watch and Brent Leroy has a round-faced watch. That's the biggest difference.
You actually change watches to go.
Yeah, I change watches. But the glasses I have in real life, they're the exact same, except the show glasses have they're tilted down a little bit so the lights don't bounce back into the camera. That's the only difference.
Because I know this season anyway, you had an episode where you were a cartoonist. You were doing little doodles and selling it to the Ruby.
The Ruby Newsday.
The Newsday, right. And you are a cartoonist.
I am. I used to make a paltry living as a cartoonist.
That's amazing.
Illustrator, graphic artist.
Yeah. And do you still
I do a
some
lot of
this?
things medium well. Like I am able to do a lot of things almost good enough to make a living at.
Okay. With those cartoons, those little, is that what they're called? Cartoons?
Sure. So if I do cartoons, we call it
Well,
cartoons.
the one single panel in the show.
In Ruby News, cartoons for sure.
Was that yours? Did you draw those?
No, I actually didn't draw those.
Oh, okay.
I was ready. I was keen to.
Yeah.
But just production-wise, they had to be done and go into. So Dan Wright, our art director, drew them.
Oh, man. Were they good enough?
Yeah, they were good enough.
Okay. Another episode, you were in a band. Now, weren't you really in a band?
Sure, I was in a couple bands in high school. Fast Exit was one of the bands I was in.
Ooh, they were good. I like those.
We were good, and you'll notice in the episode of Corner Gas, Fast Exit is referenced as though they were the band. Our band on Corner Gas is playing. We're covering a tune that was done by Fast Exit.
Ooh,
so in
really?
a way, it's as though my band in high school became famous, and now my band on Corner Gas is covering this tune.
And do you still know the guys from the band?
Yeah,
Were they all pleased that they
Swatsky, I was just hanging out with him.
Yeah.
Swatsky and Kook Baduk. I don't get to talk to Kook very much anymore. He was our drummer.
Yeah.
I can sum Kook Baduk up to you in one story.
Okay.
He was a great guy. His nickname was Kook because he just wasn't wired up right. Great guy though, right?
Yeah.
We wanted to start a band. We didn't have a drummer. Guitar, bass, no drummer, right? And so mainly because nobody had the money to buy drums. Then Kook Baduk's dad won the Western Express lottery, $100,000, and gave him $5,000. So, here's a guy who's got the money for drums, right? Never thought of playing drums in his life. We go over to his house Saturday morning, knock on his door, wake him up. He's all bleary-eyed in his AC/DC T-shirt that he sleeps in. Comes down, he's like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" And we said, "We're taking you to Nipawin. We're going to go to Drader's Music House. You're going to buy some drums and be the drummer in our band." And he said, "Well, let me wash my hair." And he went to the sink and ran some water over his hair and combed it and said, "All right, let's go." and he bought drums.
And how long were you together?
We had a few gigs. I don't know.
So you made him buy drums
Year
for
and a
a few
half.
gigs. Oh, okay.
Year and a half we were together, maybe.
That's good.
Mostly practicing.
Yeah. But hey, and this was in high school, do you say?
Yeah.
Do you still
And
play?
we were in another band called Main Street, too. Fast Exit and Main Street were the two bands we were in.
Wow. And do you still play?
I
You
do.
were the
I have
guitarist?
guitar. Yeah, I have guitar, and I still play just for kicks. We did radio jingle to promote the Christmas episode that all the radio stations played across the country, and I recorded it here in Craig Northey's studio in North Van, and played the guitar on that. And sang.
Oh, you were on the guitar on that. Wow.
Yeah.
You were. Was he impressed?
It's like 3 bar chords. It's really not that. I didn't do anything that was that impressive.
All right. So
He was impressed that I got there in the morning. I think that was the thing.
that would be something. But you have more responsibilities now. You have to show up on time. And
I know. I was of all the comics, like in a community of people who are notorious for sleeping late, I was the guy who slept the latest. The comics were always amazed at my ability to. They were, guys who got up at 2 p.m. were amazed at how late I would sleep. And now, my life is at about 5:30. I get picked up and go to work.
wow. So, and are you going to bed? It's still tough to go to bed early, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the. Like I say, I'm 83 years old now, so it's.
He's aged
You start to slow down.
16 years since. The show
Yeah,
began.
but I have an ability to sleep. Like I can nod off in a second.
It's a talent.
It is. It's a gift to be able to, suddenly drop into a deep, restful REM sleep. It's a tremendous gift. It's my greatest asset that I
And
have.
wake up with saliva down your chin.
Covered all over.
I want to hear some more Brent Butt stand-up.
Who doesn't? Come on.
I mean, it's been so long since I've heard it. Here he is talking about police in this small town.
I think the police have it easier, though, huh? Police have it easier in a small town, especially when it comes to investigating crimes. They're like, can you describe the man who robbed you? Yeah, it was Dwayne. What? Dwayne doing robbing people? Oh, yeah, he bought the new truck. He's probably having a hard time making the payments. That's probably... Should we go down to his work and pick him up? No, today's Tuesday. He's at home with the kids. Oh, that's right. Every crime solved in about 11 minutes.
That's what I want to see on Corner Gas. Karen and what's his name? Davis. Yeah. Have that, right? It's Dwayne, whoever it is. And
this is how a lot of people don't realize how subtle stand-up is, like how the devil's in the details type of thing.
Yeah.
In the recording of that joke, I say it was Dwayne. The joke actually works. It's better if I say he was Dwayne.
Why is that?
It's a very subtle thing because he was. It's still leading you down the path as though you're going to describe the man who robbed you. You know?
Oh, right. Yes.
He was, you could still say he was 6 feet tall, or he was, a redhead or whatever. So it's subtly better. The joke works better if you say he was instead of it was. And I remember when I recorded that at the Opera House, thinking, even though I got a laugh, thinking I screwed up. I said it was instead of he was.
Huh. And when you say it works better, you mean you get a bigger response?
Yeah, it's like, 20% better.
20% better. That's great. How has fame changed you at all? I don't notice it.
You don't remember me wearing a solid gold suit before, do you?
No, I don't.
Here I am in my gold lame.
I mean, I would think
the crown is new. Don't you think?
Riding the giraffe. I would think that I've always thought that people always say, "Oh, fame has changed so and so," and I always thought that it's probably more the people around the person who gets really famous who think, "Oh, he's got a big head now," than it is actually the person. Although sometimes a negative characteristic can come out when somebody gets really big. But what have your experience been?
I always I listened to an interview with Jimmy Buffett one time because he's loaded and successful.
The millionaire or the singer?
Not Warren Buffett, Jimmy Buffett, who I'm sure is a millionaire, but he's not a billionaire.
Right.
He doesn't run Berkshire Hathaway. But he's got a lot of parrot heads buying his records. But Jimmy Buffett, in an interview, somebody said to him, because he's invested really well and he's made a lot of money and stuff, and somebody said, "Does success change you?" And he said, "I don't think success changes people. Success reveals people." And I've always that really struck home with me. I think that is the case in a lot of times. You've become successful or you become wealthy. That's really, you don't have to not be an a-hole anymore. Right? If you were by nature, if you were by nature an a-hole and you haven't been, it's probably you've been covering it up all this time. But now you're powerful enough that you can afford to be an a-hole. So it really just reveals you. So I mean, I don't know that I ever had any mandate or agenda or anything prior to Corner Gas that's any different from what my mandate and agenda is now. So it really hasn't. I don't think it's changed anything.
Yeah, you're still talking to your buddies from the band. From high school,
sure.
Right?
Why not?
I don't know.
Except Kook. Where is Kook these days?
Kook, if you're listening. So the people around you, are they treating you any different?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I mean, generally, the people that I hung out with, they were my friends because they were good, solid people who they didn't care if you had 10 cents or if you had $1 million or they didn't care if nobody knew you or you're the most famous person in the world. The reason that I gravitated to these people and ended up hanging out with, my core group of friends they couldn't care less whether I was, other than that they're happy for me that I'm having success, but it wouldn't make any difference.
Yeah, asking to borrow money and stuff.
Yeah, they always did that before anyway. Okay. I was always like, I had $80 when everybody else had 11, So I was always slightly ahead of the cash game.
Now you're like the youngest of 7 kids, is that right?
What? Yes, that is true. I forget sometimes, but yes, I am the youngest of 7 kids.
And do your brothers look like you?
Yeah, there is.
Or you look like them, I guess.
There's definitely a family resemblance. The next the next oldest, the next youngest, or whatever, the 6th. I'm the 7th child. Right. The 6th child, Lloyd. We look a lot alike.
And does he get stopped in the streets?
Not that much. We don't look that much alike.
Oh, okay.
But like if you saw him and I together, you'd go, "Who's this? Your brother?" We look that much alike.
Wow. And so the family's got to be thrilled about the success.
Yeah, they've always been very supportive, my family. When, I kind of had the luxury of coming along as the 7th child because the novelty's off, the expectations are off. There's not like, oh, you got to be a lawyer or a doctor. They're like, It doesn't matter.
Anyway.
I told my mom I wanted to be a stand-up, and literally she said, "Could you do it outside?" That was all she cared about.
That's right. I read that it was when watching the Alan Hamill show.
Yeah.
You were 12 years old, and a stand-up came on. Do you remember who that was?
Kelly Monteith.
Kelly Monteith. Yes, I remember him.
Yeah.
I never really liked him.
He went on to do pretty well in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of like a real typical observational comic of the time. You know, late 70s, early 80s. Mm-hmm. Late 70s, I guess, when I first saw him. Yeah, just observational stand-up. And but that was the first time I saw a stand-up doing his thing. I'd seen comedic actors and sketch guys, you know, Wayne and Schuster and stuff like that. But I'd never seen a stand-up just come out and talk and get laughs. And I thought, well, that's awesome. I would love to do that.
At 12 years old.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing with my buddies, you know. Like I would hold court and make my friends laugh. And then the notion of, oh, I could just do that and be on TV and like have a job doing that seems pretty cool. So I set my sights on that.
And you did it.
Yeah.
And from what I hear, the very first time you stepped on stage was like you were a seasoned vet.
It's probably my best show ever. That show. It's been 17 years of trying to recapture the magic of that first show. It's actually not an uncommon story. A lot of stand-ups their first time, for whatever reason, nervous energy or whatever, they do really well the first time out, and then the second, third, fourth, fifth aren't so good.
So you did have that period of being not so funny that a lot of young comics go through?
I peaked early, and then it kind of really slowed down. But not too. I mean, I was always as good as my peer group. I was never like bombing more than anybody else, or I was generally able to do stand up in some fashion. So I was never discouraged to get out of it or anything.
You got it all going on. It is our last show before Christmas here at What's So Funny. We won't be on the air next week, but we got to play a little Christmas track anyway. And this is Brent playing 3 chords on his guitar. It's a little outdated because he talks about the Christmas special coming up, which was last week, but I'm sure it'll be
old news.
But I wanted to play it anyway. Here's Brent doing all the writing and singing and all that.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, I'm late.
You got something for us?
Yeah, I got some original tunes I'm going to lay down here. The other musicians here, are they ready?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Are they pros? Are they going to be able to follow me?
Yep, they'll be fine.
All right, the song we're going to put down kind of goes like this. Ding, 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 kind of like that. Ding,
Brent,
ding, ding, ding.
Brent.
What's that?
It's a little like Jingle Bells.
What are you talking about? It's nothing like Jingle Bells. This is all my original stuff that I put together.
Okay, let's go.
Every week on Monday night, there's a swinging show that's out of sight, and they call it Corner Gas. Jingle bells, patty whack, grab a drink and grab a snack and sit down on your sofa.
Brent.
What?
You said Jingle Bells.
You screwed me up. You put that in my head.
Keep going.
There's never been a snowflake in Dog River yet. But if you take a peek at your screen this week, there'll be tons of snow, you bet. Yeah! Here we go.
Brent.
What?
It's the Snowman song.
Well, you're out of your mind. This is my stuff. This is my original music. On the 12th of December, it's the Corner Gas Christmas show. And Lacey loves Dog River, but she's kind of homesick. Hank has a big heart, wants to help a poor kid. Oscar's kind of cranky, nothing really new there. Emma's changing Christmas, will she make it better? Davis buys a present for his partner Karen. Karen doesn't buy a single thing for Davis. And Wanda's got the craziest toy in town.
I don't know. If you're going to go all the way with that, you forgot yourself in the song.
And Brent's a groovy stud who's really hot. Okay, we're on a roll.
No. I think we're in a lot of legal hot water.
What are you, a cop? Just press record. Jeez, relax, Metallica.
I'll just be quiet then.
Quiet down. I'm singing a holy song. And...
No. Can you just rock then?
Fine. Let's rock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody's favorite time of year is finally here. Corner Gas has a Christmas show and it only took 3 years. Dog River, it's Christmas time. Hey, hey! Dog River, it's Christmas time. Ho, ho! Dog River, it's Christmas on Corner Gas. On Corner Gas. On Corner Gas. That Corner Gas.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not too bad. See you at Easter.
Hang on. Are those jingle bells on your feet?
Yeah, 'tis the season.
'Tis the season, and that was Brent Butt. He is our guest here this week. Our last show before Christmas. That was special. Brent, did you write that?
I did. You hear me singing there, right?
Yeah.
That is like as crappy as that sounds. That is everything that electronically can be done to make my voice sound good.
They have these things now that can make you sing in tune.
That was it. They maxed it out. The computer was smoking trying to make me get in tune there. But it's fun. I love to do it.
But it reminded me of the theme song, which is another great thing about the show. It's that's part of it, right?
Well, Craig Northey, who's the voice of the producer there in the piece, we recorded at his studio. A lot of your listeners will remember him from being in Odds, and which was one of the best bands ever. And Shark Skin, he plays in now, and just a very talented musician. He was the guy that when we were doing the show, I approached Craig to do the theme song for the show, and for Corner Gas, and I said all I said to him was I want it to be the type of tune. I want to be very upbeat, happy tune, type of tune that if you were going to pull out onto the highway to go on a long highway drive somewhere in the summer, you'd crank this tune. You go, oh, this is perfect to hit the highway. This song, right? And he came back with not a lot going on. That him and Jesse Valenzuela from
So they wrote the lyrics
Blossoms
too?
Yeah, they wrote all the lyrics. I tweaked a couple of the lyrics, but they wrote all the lyrics.
Are you happy being a big star in Canada? Or are you looking for maybe some U.S. exposure?
Looking for U.S. exposure with this show, but other than that, like I'm not moving down to the States, or I don't have. I mean, it's not something I'm pursuing at all. I'm completely happy to be here. If suddenly, I'm not a lunatic. Like if NBC said, "Oh, we want you to do a big giant sitcom down here for $100 million," I'd go, "All right, give that a whirl."
Let's try that.
But it's not something I'm pursuing. I'm not, going down to LA and then during, the off season to try and get anything going. I'm happy here. I love living in Canada, and I like the pace, and I like the show, and I like, and I make a buck doing it. And
I always thought that it would be the best situation for an entertainer would be to be a big star in Canada and not in the States, because then you got your anonymity. I mean,
you don't have all that money to count.
Well, you still got you make a good living, right? And you can go places without being. You
can always find some place where people don't know you.
Neverland or something.
You can always go somewhere where people don't know you.
Really, Michael Jackson can?
Well, sure.
David Letterman,
especially changing your appearance every 11 days, like you
I guess so.
But I mean, if you want to not be recognized, it's no problem, right? You can do that. Anybody who's
even with a big head like yours,
exactly. Even with a big head like mine, if it, never mind Michael Jackson.
But Corner Gas, I mean, there's a lot of cable channels in the States. I know that the Beachcombers was syndicated all throughout the world. Trailer Park Boys is now in England and Ireland, Australia, I think. Anything for Corner Gas?
Yeah, it's about to be, kind of marketed down in the States. Up to this point, we were trying to settle on the company that is going to do it, to be the distributor. But it's definitely that's part of the game plan, is to market it. It's being marketed overseas right now, and then another company is going to market it in the States. So hopefully it'll
I think
air.
It would work.
The response has been great, and we do have people who watch the show on satellite and people who buy the DVDs down in the States. They, are you all right, man? You're going to be okay? The response from Americans has been great. And people, from the get-go, the concern was, well, this is a show, about Saskatchewan. Is it going to fly? And the thing is, it's not about Saskatchewan. It happens to take place there, but it's just about these people going about their day. And there's a lot of universality about it. The characters are very archetypal in a lot of ways, and the situations are funny but realistic.
Is that why you had them saying Z instead of Z on the Christmas show?
To
appeal to the American audience?
The decision was made early on to let the actors say it however they say it. However they said it was fine.
Really?
Because here in Canada, we have a tendency to say either Z or Z.
Yeah.
And the same person will say it one way once and then, the other way the next time.
Right.
So I just, it was a conscious decision to just say, however the actors say it, that's how we'll do it.
Oh, okay.
And we get grief, too. Some people go, in Canada, we say Z. And I say, well, that guy's Canadian.
Yeah, I say that. Kevin says Z. But yeah, you're right. I mean, people say both.
So I just let the actors, the actors are Canadian. They'll say it how they say it.
All right. Hey, last thing, we got to get out of here, but you used to do the Butt Show at the Urban Well downtown. I don't know why I can't talk anymore. Great. It was a talk show. Mike Bullard is gone. Any chance the Butt Show comes to TV?
I got a pretty full plate right now. I love the idea of doing it,
Yeah.
but I mean, I've kind of got a full plate on the go. Corner
You're
gas.
kinda busy,
I'm not ready to jump off a corner gas to do something else right this red hot second.
So that could go on for years and years, right? What do you think for the future of Corner Gas? 25 years?
I don't know. I've always said from the get go, I've said as long as it's fun and the audience wants to watch and the audience is there and tunes in, as long as it's fun to do and the audience wants to watch it, I'll keep doing it.
And they're still watching it? You said the highest rated show was last weekend, and it's been getting huge ratings all
First
along.
time we beat CSI. CSI is always the show that's just slightly ahead of us. And on December 12th, we beat CSI. We had 2.2 million viewers, and they had 1.8, I think it was.
Take that, CSI.
In your
Yeah.
face.
I'm taking off my glasses dramatically right now, like, what's his pickle, the guy in CSI there.
Thanks, Brent Butt, for coming on our show. You certainly didn't have to do it, but we appreciate it. And what's coming up for Corner Gas this... how many more episodes do you have?
I don't know. I'm not sure of the numbers, so I don't know how many. We're probably halfway through the season, thereabouts, something like that right now.
Halfway through, how many
We
did
did
you film?
19 this year.
Wow, it's getting more and more every year now.
Well, we did 18 last year. We decided that we added one to do the Christmas show.
Excellent. So, Brent Butt, you can see him on a big theater stage. Oh, why can't I talk?
I look Peter Brady right now.
That's a good reference. I need next week off. Or maybe down at the well sometime in the future on Tuesday night.
Maybe this coming Tuesday. I might
Maybe
do
this-
it.
oh, hey.
I might. I don't know. There's a big show going down this Tuesday at the Urban Well, though. Fundraiser for food bank and stuff like that. So if your listeners are there, come down to the Urban Well on Tuesday.
Excellent. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks.